23 resolutions, 16 first reading bills, 12 second reading pieces of legislation, and 6 ordinances on third and final reading. On the agenda, there are 4 appointments to city boards and commissions, including 2 for the Metro Fair Board, 1 of the Solid Waste Regional Board, and an interim appointment of Austin Kyle to serve as the Metropolitan Clerk for a term of less than 6 months. Fair Board appointments have been controversial in recent months, with the council, Mayor John Cooper and Vice Mayor Jim Shulman, being unable to agree on who should fill these posts. All sides want more diversity on the Fair Board, but whether it be an African American or a Hispanic has been the disagreement. 2 latest nominees to these unpaid volunteer positions are Mario Oliva and Jasper Hendricks. Both are nominations that were made jointly by the mayor and the vice mayor. They will need 21 council votes to be confirmed tonight. Mr. Oliva is Hispanic, Mr. Hendricks is African American. Tonight's meeting is being held during a sharp rising and record number and spread of COVID-19 infections, including the highly contagious Omicron variant that happening both here in Nashville, across the state, and across the country. State law has stripped the Metro Health Department of the power to continue a mask mandate in all city-owned buildings. Therefore, wearing a mask here tonight for the council meeting is recommended but not required. There are again several resolutions on the council agenda tonight that are of interest. One is RS 2021-1251, would end the city's decades-long vehicle emissions program that began back in 1984. Federal Environmental Protection Agency says the city now meets the clean air standards for the country. All other inspection programs in Tennessee counties are being discontinued. This particular bill has 24 sponsors and was deferred back in November for more time for study, but it appears the resolution is headed towards approval tonight. Mayor John Cooper today came out in favor of ending the program. Resolution 2022-1312 appropriates $8.135 million from the city's fund balance of monies, including over $3 million for the police department to buy new taser equipment and $1.5 million for the salary and fringe benefit costs for the new Juneteenth Metro holiday that are not covered in the city's current budget. The tasers and studies such as for homeless performance review, the cost of services in both the city's urban services and general services district, studying that may bring some questions and perhaps even some opposition tonight. There are again several resolutions that will appropriate federal American Rescue Funds. One is RS 2022-1307. It would allocate $1.06 million to the Community Safety Partnership Fund to support evidence-based community solutions to interpersonal violence. This is in addition to $1 million in other funds that's already been allocated in this area. There's been some controversy surrounding the Cure Violence pilot project in North Nashville, also through the Community Safety Partnership Fund, so there could be some debate or questions about that. RS 2022-1313 would allocate $350,000 in rescue funds to the Metro Police to expand the Partners in Care pilot program and create a crisis intervention team training program. The pilot program began last year in a couple of precincts. It has been very successful in pairing officers and responding to emergency situations with trained mental health professionals. The new funds will help provide further training to expand the program in the future. RS 2022-1310 and 1311 appropriates $15.3 million in American Rescue Funds to the Metropolitan Development Housing Agency to fund the Napier-Suitem Community Safety Plan. Resolution also funds efforts to improve infrastructure at MDHA's Casey Place and to increase safety at the Cumberland View Housing Development. One final resolution tonight related to the pandemic is RS 2022-1306. It would allow sidewalk cafes to continue to operate throughout Nashville until November of this year. Council first allowed this back in September of 2020. The purpose had been to provide some relief to restaurants impacted by COVID-19 and the resulting social distancing and seating capacity requirements coming from the disease. There are 5 resolutions on the agenda, RS 2022-1313 through 1318, that will approve more intergovernmental agreements with local law enforcement agency Middle Tennessee to deal with the distribution of state grant funds to assist with the investigation of internet crimes against children. The council has previously approved such legislation with other Middle Tennessee law enforcement agencies. RS 2022-1324 would extend for 10 years an agreement that's already in place since back in 2001 for Metro to provide up to 1 million gallons of water per day to the city of Brentwood. Under memorializing resolutions, RS 2022-1326 would ask the Metro Planning Commission to update the city's general plan by June 30th, 2023. That's because the rate of growth and development within Nashville and Davidson County has outpaced the growth that's been anticipated when the last plan was adopted and updated in 2017. Also under resolutions, RS 2022-1323 requests the Metropolitan government to invest the feasibility providing free parking for public meetings being held here at the historic Metro Courthouse. Finally, RS 2022-1327 recognizes the 125th anniversary of the R.H. Boyd Publishing Company. The company has been a principal source of religious publications for Black Baptists worldwide and has played a key role in establishing an African-American religious and racial identity in the United States. On second reading tonight is BL 2021-1052. This is the redistricting proposal from the City's Planning Commission regarding the 35 Metro Council districts and the 9 Metro School Board positions. All this in light of the 2020 census. The council can either accept or reject this plan. It cannot amend it. The council staff has worked with the council through 3 versions of the plan before it was even submitted to the council. The issue could go to a public referendum if the council rejects it, and the council could add its own plan for voter approval as well. Tonight should tell us whether there are major issues with the rezoning matter, with the redistricting matter. Also on second reading, BL 2021-1010 would limit tourist transportation vehicles to operate in the downtown area only during certain hours and away from schools. That measure has been deferred in the past. It will be deferred again because the main sponsor, Councilman at Large Steve Glover, will not be here tonight. One final note on second reading, BL 2021-1055 would give an honorary designation of a portion of 40th Avenue North between Indiana Avenue and Clifton Avenue as Charles Dungy Way. Late Mr. Dungy was an internationally recognized jazz bassist and vocalist who dedicated his career to jazz performance and education. He toured with Pearl Bailey and Sammy Davis Jr. and worked alongside jazz greats Milt Jackson, Eartha Kitt, Betty Carter, and Hank Crawford. He was the first black bassist with the Nashville Symphony back in the 1970s and served as a faculty member at Tennessee State University. If you want to follow tonight's meeting as it progresses, you can find the agenda and a staff analysis online. Go to the Metro Council portion of the Nashville.gov website, and then on to the Legislative Information Center. We'll be placing the bill numbers on the screen when we come up for consideration tonight, so you can also follow along, keep up with where we are on the meeting agenda. Let's go now to Vice Mayor Jim Shulman. He's about to gavel tonight's council meeting into order shortly.
Ready? Bang it 3 times. Let's go. Very good. Will the meeting please come to order? We welcome you to the Metro Council. Today is Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. Hope everyone had a good holiday, and here's wishing all of you a happy and healthy 2022. Will all members of the council as well as the public please rise for the invocation, remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. This invocation, the invocation this evening will be offered by Jeremy Quiones, an ordained minister from District 9 and a guest of our council member, Tanya Hancock.
If you would please join me in prayer, however you feel comfortable. The prayer this evening will be in English and in Spanish. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the start of a new year. Padre Celestial, te damos gracias por un año nuevo. We thank you for yet another union where we can talk about the betterment, improvement, and enrichment of our grand city, Nashville. Señor, te damos gracias por otra oportunidad para poder hablar del desarrollo y enriquecimiento de nuestra gran ciudad, Nashville. Father, we pray for your guidance. Pedimos por tu guianza. We pray for your wisdom, por tu sabiduría. Father, continue to protect us and guide us as we speak about how we can make this and continue to develop an even bigger and better Nashville. Señor, guíanos así como seguimos platicando en cómo podemos seguir creciendo y desarrollando un gran Nashville. It is in your name that we pray. Es en tu nombre que oramos. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. Okay, y'all may be seated. Hold on just a second. Okay, I just want to introduce the person who really banged that gavel very hard tonight. His name is Isaac Quiones. He's related to the minister who spoke before. He is 6 years old and in first grade. So thank you, Isaac. You did a great job. Okay. Okay, without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for adoption of the minutes of the meeting from December 21st, 2021? I hear a motion properly seconded. Without objection, the minutes of the meeting will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, hitting all the buttons. Madam Clerk, any messages from the mayor?
No, Vice Mayor, there are no messages from the mayor.
Okay, I saw the mayor up here. He didn't leave any messages, correct?
No,
Okay,
sir, he left
all right.
no messages.
Okay. All right, I do want to recognize, I did see the mayor up here before. I saw the District Attorney General, Glenn Funk is here. There he is, there he's in the back. The Assessor of Property is here, Vivian Wilhoit is here. And our juvenile court judge, Sheila Calloway, was here. She's still here? Okay. Did I miss anybody who was in the back? All right. Okay, so anyway, I just called on the clerk for messages from the mayor. Speaking of the clerk, as you know, Elizabeth Waits, who had served as our clerk for a number of years, left that position effective January 1st, 2022. So item E3 of your agenda is the nomination of Austin Kyle, who now currently works in the council office. The nomination of Austin to serve as interim clerk for a term of less than 6 months. Unless there's any objection, and because we need to have an acting clerk, I'd like to go ahead and move that item up to be considered now. Any objections to moving it up? Seeing none, without objection, we are moving that up. We are now on item 22-146. It's item E3 on your agenda for the appointment of Austin Kyle as interim clerk. It went before the elections and confirmations. Again, this is the appointment of Mr. Austin Kyle as interim clerk for a term of less than 6 months. It went before the Rules Committee. I'm looking for a report from the Rules Committee. Councilmember Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. We voted 5 in favor, 0 against. Yes.
Okay, in favor of the resolution? And if
Yes.
I could I get a motion to approve? I got a motion to approve, properly seconded. This is for the appointment of Mr. Austin Kyle as interim clerk. Any questions? Any discussion? Seeing none, all ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion's adopted. We now have Mr. Austin Kyle as our interim clerk. Come on up. All right, while Mr. Kyle is getting adjusted to that seat, a couple of items to discuss. We do want to congratulate the Tennessee Titans on winning the AFC South Division Championship for the second year in a row. I do want to let you know that both Councilman Glover and Councilmember Swope's wife had surgery over the break. Both are doing well. So I just wanted to let you know that. You should have received notice that there are 4 vacancies on the Metropolitan Community Oversight Board for terms expiring January 31st, 2025. So the board members currently holding those seats are Mr. Jamel R. Campbell Gooch, Mr. Walter L. Holloway, Mr. Andre A. Martinez, and Mr. Andrew J. Goddard. Procedures for filling the vacancies are as we normally do. Again, there are 4 vacancies to be filled at this time. Let me go through those really quick. You do have it, but I want to make sure we get formal notice on the record. Of the 4 vacancies, 2 members must be representatives of either A, a community organization, or B, filled out by a private petition signed by 50 residents of Davidson County. So again, 2 of the 4 must be, again, A, either be nominated by a community organization or actually turn in a private petition signed by 50 residents of Davidson County. In addition, 1 vacancy is to be filled by nominations submitted by you all as members of the council. And further, 1 vacancy will be a person nominated by the mayor. Members must be registered voters, and the person whose seats are becoming vacant are permitted to remain on this board for a 60-day holdover period during the pendency of this election. Those are by the charter. That last provision is by the charter. The deadlines for these things are February 1st, 2022. All nominations must be filed using the Community Oversight Board nomination form. This form must be completed by any council member wishing to nominate someone, as well as any member of a community organization or member of the community wishing to submit a petition for his or her nomination or the nomination of someone else. Those nomination forms are available on the COB website, Community Oversight Board website. Nomination form should be completed, signed by the nominator, and emailed to the Metro clerk at metro.clerk@nashville.gov no later than 4:30 p.m. on February 1st, 2022. Petition form is also posted on that same webpage. Nominations by petition form must be signed by 50 Davidson County residents, and the petition form must be included as an attachment and filed at the same time as the corresponding nomination form. February 8th, 2022 is the next deadline. All nominees received by February 1st must file the Community Oversight Board information sheet for the Metro Council by no later than 12 o'clock p.m. on February 8th, 2022. Any nominee who fails to file the information sheet by this deadline shall be deemed to have withdrawn his or her name from nomination. The next deadline is February 15th, 2022. The nominees must appear before our Rules, Confirmation, and Public Elections Committee on that date. And then, assuming we don't have a number of people that we have to go through and actually reschedule the date, February 15th, that same date, the Metro Council will elect and confirm 3 board members by majority vote at the regular council meeting. 2 categories of election will be held to fill the 3 vacancies. 1 round of the election will be conducted to fill the 2 seats nominated by, again, either a community organization or a private petition signed by 50 residents. And a 2nd round of election will be conducted to fill the vacancy from nomination forms submitted by council members. Council will also vote to confirm the mayor's nominee. If there's any questions about anything, please check with the Metropolitan Council Office. Number is 615-862-6780, or you can call the Metropolitan Clerk's Office, 615-862-6770. Again, council members, you should have gotten an email today that has this information on it. We would encourage you to look at it. If people are interested in being on the Community Oversight Board, there are obviously 4 seats open at this point. I did receive some information today from one of our community organizations, Neighborhood Health, that I thought I would share. This is using census data for Nashville and using some of the latest vaccination statistics from January 2nd, 2022. Based on that data, this is what I was told. COVID vaccinations are going well among those 40 years of age and older. More than 80% of all Nashvillians aged 40 to 54 and older are vaccinated. That's really good. Those age 65 plus are almost at 90% being vaccinated. The concern that Neighborhood Health is expressing is focus is now on families and millennials. Of the roughly 113,000 unvaccinated adults, 6 in 10 are between the ages of 20 to 39. And there's concerns, obviously, about many of the unvaccinated millennials may be parents of unvaccinated children. COVID vaccinations among children remains a work in progress. Metro has not yet reported the percentages of those ages 5 to 9 who have been vaccinated. That's the information I got from Neighborhood Health, but we are here to hear from, we have Dr. Gil Wright, who's the director of the Metro Health Department, and we had asked him to come and give the council an update, particularly with the Omicron variant spreading very rapidly. So without objection, we're going to hear from Dr. Wright. If you would come up to that back podium, and members of the council, I give you Dr. Gil Wright from the Metro Health Department.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Council. I wanted to give you just a brief kind of Omicron primer, if you will. Currently, we are sequencing that's done, where we actually look at the genetic makeup. 50 to 75% of what we're now seeing in Nashville is Omicron. Still have some Delta. Delta is still present, so just information. This Omicron variant seems to be highly infectious and spreads very rapidly. With that in mind, we've seen our numbers of active cases double and then double again over the last 2 weeks. We're also seeing a positive rate, or what we call an attack rate, which is the percent of all tests that are positive. That's gone from 9.1% 2 weeks ago to 34.4% this week as of Sunday. The new cases per 100,000 has also increased. The expectation is that we're taking what in our last few surges has been 3 months, and we're probably pushing that down into about 6 weeks. So high numbers, but probably will be over and start to decline fairly quickly, maybe the middle of February, hopefully a little quicker, but we are going to see a lot of cases, I think, for the time being. It does appear to be less severe than what we've seen with some of our others, and at least one study initially reported just the other day did show that this is actually more in the upper respiratory and not in the lungs, at least in some of the mammals that they've been testing it in. We'll need more studies, but that may account for why it does seem to be less severe, not causing the pneumonia and some of the other things. We are doing some analysis of our own data to look at each of the prior surges. How did we do, and what was the number of cases, and what was the death rate in those in the same time frame that we're seeing right now, to see if that plays out here. But at least in some of the European countries and South Africa, we did see a much lower rate, case fatality rate in there. The symptoms, as you would expect, if it's upper respiratory or in the upper part, are really more like a cold or the flu. Sore throat is something that's kind of new and pretty common with this. We're not seeing the loss of taste and smell as much. Runny nose is more prominent. And we're still seeing a lot of muscle aches, some low-grade fevers to even high-grade fevers. You can have a cough, but the shortness of breath is not as common. As far as the hospitals go, about half of the COVID cases that we're currently seeing in the hospitals are not there for COVID themselves, but they're incidental, interestingly enough. They had a heart attack, they had a stroke, they were in a car accident, they need to be in the hospital. They were tested, because everybody that goes into the hospital is tested. They were found to have COVID, not a lot of symptoms. I talked to Dr. Jahangir 2 days ago. He'd done 5 cases on surgery for auto accidents and that type of thing. All were positive. So we are seeing it, but it's not filling up the hospitals and making them, at this point, a problem for them. We keep in close contact, and we're watching that very closely. Obviously, that's our biggest concern, is if we would overrun our hospitals. Symptoms make clear fairly quickly, and the CDC, based on some data from other countries and their own data, changed the quarantining recommendations. This last week, they went to 5 days of isolation. And following that, you can return to work for the next 5 days, so day 6 through 10, if you wear a mask. And this is also out on Tennessee Department of Health's website. They adopted the same, almost exact same thing. So we feel like we can use this and very clearly, appropriately. The biggest problem is for young children who can't wear masks, especially pre-K. They still need to isolate for 10 days because they can't keep those masks on and wear them properly for those 5 days after the first 5. So, bottom line really is what I would want you to know is if you're exposed or think you're positive due to symptoms, please stay home, get yourself tested. Until the results are back, stay home. The symptoms can be similar to the flu or even an upper respiratory at this point. So they've changed a little bit, so be aware of that. This is the time when we see a lot of flu and colds, so that makes it a little harder to know which is which. A lot of physicians are doing a COVID test and a flu test at the same time because one may be positive and the other not. If you have questions about what's going on, not getting better, or you're getting worse, obviously talk to your provider. Face masks, particularly surgical or N95, are better at this point than just cloth masks. They do a little better job of filtering, and with this being more infectious, that helps reduce some of the spread. The other thing to know is to expect some staffing shortages. That's the biggest concern, I think, for the hospitals is really, and for us, police, fire, is having a lot of people out because they happen to be infected and can't be at work for at least that short period of time. What have we been doing? I talked to Chief Swan, OEM, pretty much a couple times a day right now. We've increased testing. The assessment sites, we've opened 2 additional lanes at the Charlotte site and lanes at the Murfreesboro site. We did have 2 lanes at each site that were doing vaccination. We've cut that down to 1 because we weren't doing as much for vaccinations. They just weren't showing up for there, so we're doing more testing right now. The good news is yesterday, I haven't seen today's numbers, but yesterday's numbers were about 1,000 less for testing overall compared to a week ago. It's average. And that may be because we're past the holidays and people are back. Would encourage, if you've been out traveling prior to going back to school and that type of thing, we're encouraging people to obviously get tested. So we're also doing a lot of pop-ups with our own staff, our strike teams. We're working on hiring another strike team. We're looking at opening a 3rd site. But there's some staffing issues that we're trying to work out there. Final line is, if you're vaccinated but not boosted, and you're more than 5 months now, probably be 5 months tomorrow, the ACIP meets. If you're more than 5 months, get your booster. Boosters significantly improve your resistance to this particular strain or variant. If you're not vaccinated or only partially vaccinated, finish that vaccination series up. Continue to do what you've been doing. Stay separated, wash hands, that type of thing. So, that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. We appreciate you being here. Okay. All right, we are now ready to go to elections and confirmations. Councilmember Vercher. Is a report from the Rules Committee.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes, the Rules Confirmations Committee, we saw 2 candidates today for the Fair Board, Fair Commissioners Board. Mr. Mario Avila for a term expiring March 30th, 2023. The committee recommended approval 5-4-0 against. And also for Mr. Jasper Hendricks for the Fair Commissioners Board for a term expiring January 4th, 2027, with an approval 5-4-0 against. And for the Solid Waste Region Board, appointment of Dr. David Paget for a term expiring December 12th, 2024. The committee recommended a one-meeting deferral, 5-4-0 against.
Okay. So the Solid Waste Regional Board pick of Dr. David Paget will be deferred for one meeting. So we have two up tonight. Now, Councilmember Vercher, there was some discussion about Mr. Mario Avila and his, I think his paperwork, and there was some confusion. Did the Rules Committee take a look at that?
Yes, that was discussed in the committee, Vice Mayor, and the committee, we were okay with the response that was provided.
Okay. So I think, based upon my understanding, we're going to have to suspend the rules just because the report was in late and was in basically violation of the rules because it needed to be in by a certain time. So in order to get Mr. Avila in front of us tonight, you're going to have to move to suspend the rules just to basically say that it's okay that the report was in late.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
I don't think it was anybody's necessarily fault. It just came in late, but in order to do it, we'll need to move to suspend the rules.
Okay, I move to suspend the rules.
All right. So Councilmember Vercher has moved to suspend the rules to deal with the rule that requires certification of the actual forms to come in by a certain time. Is there any objection to suspension of the rules? All right, seeing none, rules are suspended. Councilmember Vercher, you're on a motion to approve both Fair Commissioner Board positions.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I move for approval for Mr. Mario Avila and Mr. Jasper Hendricks for the Fair Commissioners Board.
Okay, you've heard the motion, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion prevails. All right, so, and I think that actually completes your report, is that right?
Yes, the waste management for Dr. Paget, that was one meeting deferral.
Okay, so we have the appointment of Mr. Mario Avila and the appointment of Mr. Jasper Hendricks to the Fair Commissioners Board. If you all would stand up in the back, I think you're both here. And on behalf of the entire Metro Council, we want to thank you for your willingness to serve and volunteer your time and expertise to help Nashville and Davidson County. Thank you all very much. So thank you both for being here. You all are welcome to stay, or if you're smart, you would leave right now. All right? Thank you. All right, we are now ready for resolutions and bills on public hearing. I will call up the resolutions and bills one at a time and refer to the sponsor. Unless the sponsor moves to defer the public hearing, the sponsor will call for a public hearing. Then ask for a show of hands for those who are here in favor of the resolution or the bill. Then I ask for a show of hands of those who are here in opposition to the resolution or the bill. Anyone in favor of the measure wishes to speak, I'll ask you to come forward, find the microphone in the back. We're going to be cleaning it between speakers. Introduce yourself, give us your address, and then you'll have 2 minutes in which to speak. I'll then ask if anyone opposed wishes to speak. After that process, I will close the public hearing and refer back to the sponsor. So we are ready for the first measure. It's actually a resolution. We only have one up tonight, resolution on public hearing. It's RS 2022-1305 by Councilmember Parker. It's a resolution exempting All People Coffee located at 345 and 347 Douglas Avenue, Suite 101 from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a beer permit. Councilmember Parker, you are recognized on your resolution.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Should we begin with committee reports?
Yeah, Government Operations had this one. Councilmember Hancock?
So for Resolution 2022-1305, for the first time this year, we had a unanimous vote to approve. 6 in favor, 0 against.
That is so exciting. Thank you, Councilmember Hancock. Councilmember Parker, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
All right. I declare the public hearing open on RS 2022-1305. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of this resolution. I see one hand in the back. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to the resolution. Seeing nobody in opposition, you, sir, would you like to speak, the person in favor? All right. I'll need your name, address, and then you'll have 2 minutes in which to speak. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Corey Alexander. My address is 2034 Straightway Avenue. I am one of the owners of All People Coffee. All People is a place to where anyone can come and have a beverage, have coffee, have wine, and share in the community in East Nashville. The point of our establishment is to bring people together. And I'm excited to be able to do that, and hopefully with your approval, to have beverages for any and all people. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak? All right. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Parker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Okay, I got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Back to you.
Just wanted to say how excited we are to welcome All People and Mr. Alexander to right in the heart of District 5 at Douglas and Lishee. This is going to be a great addition to the community. So I certainly invite my colleagues to come join us for a coffee or a beer at All People sometime.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Parker. Councilmember Parker has moved approval. It's been properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Resolution is passed. All right, we're now on bills on public hearing. The first bill up is Bill 2020, 479. This is by Councilmember O'Connell and Murphy. It's an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code by changing from MUN, MUNA, MULA, MUG, OR20, CS, and CF to MUNA, NS, MUNANS, MULANS, MUGNS, OR20, NS, CS, NS, and CFNS zoning for various properties located between Rosedale Parks Boulevard and 2nd Avenue North, Hume Street, south to Jefferson Street, located within the Germantown Historic Preservation District overlay, and the Phillips Jackson Street Redevelopment District overlay. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized. On your
Thank you, Mr. President. We could potentially take this as well as 504 together. They are a pair, effectively. They've been tracking together. And so I don't intend to open the public hearing for either one of these and would defer both, so I'm happy to do that as a pair if we can.
Okay, let me read the caption from Bill 2020-504. Councilmember O'Connell's the sponsor. Ordinance amending Chapter 17.36 and 17.40 of the Metropolitan Code pertaining to creating an owner-occupied short-term rental overlay district. Okay, so Councilmember O'Connell, you're on both your bills, 2020-479 and 2020-504.
Thank you. I do not intend to open the public hearing here and would like to move to defer to the public hearing in May with a brief comment, please.
Okay. So the motion is to defer both these bills to the first meeting in May. Properly seconded. Back to you.
Thank you. This was, again, working through a somewhat acute problem in Germantown, but that I know has variations in communities elsewhere where clustered developments of non-owner occupied short-term rentals are occurring. Germantown residents are still kind of looking for a solution here. This was the original approach that we pursued, and neighbors were eager to get it filed, but I think there were enough concerns and people wanted to pursue an alternative, and that's where the recently discussed parking variation came from. So we're regrouping now after that one got disapproved at planning. This one got approved, but I think we're still looking at what the most appropriate way to address this issue is from a policy standpoint. And so I'm going to work with neighbors over the next several weeks on how to revise this approach. It's been very based in the community and want to keep it that way. So we'll be back for a kind of another pass at this discussion after we've regrouped with the community.
Okay, thank you, Council Member. We're looking at Bill 2020-479 and Bill 2020-504. The motion, which has been seconded, is to defer both these measures to the first meeting in May. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Both these measures are deferred to the first meeting in May. Next item up is item number 4. It's on page 4. Councilmember Welsh is the sponsor. It's Bill 2021-993, ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from RS10 to OR20 NS zoning for property located at 88 Thompson Lane, approximately 130 feet west of Hartford Drive. It's 0.36 acres. Councilmember Welsh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. Could I have a show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure? Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Councilmember Welsh, I saw no hands either way, I think. Declare the public hearing closed. You're on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move to approve.
Okay, so the motion is to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion on the measure? Seeing none, we're on Bill 2021-993. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. Next bill up is item number 5, Bill 2021-1000 by Councilmember Stiles. This is the ordinance to amend Title 17 by canceling a portion of the Hickory Hollow Plan Unit Development Overlay District for property located at 5256 Hickory Hollow Parkway. That's approximately 530 feet southwest of Mount View Road, zone SCR. It's 12.11 acres. Councilmember Stiles, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. I'd like to see a show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay, see a hand in the back. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to the measure. Councilmember Stiles, I'm looking around the poll. Was anybody in opposition? Okay. Those in favor wish to speak? Okay, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Stiles, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval at this time.
Okay, Councilmember Stiles says move for approval, properly seconded. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Bill's adopted. Thank you, Councilmember Stiles. Bill 2021-1001 by Council Members Allen and Lee can be taken with item number 7, which is Bill 2021-1002. I'll read them both. 1001 ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from R8 and AR2A to SP zoning for property located at 6103 Mountain View Road, northeast corner of Mount View Road and Hamilton Church Road, 22.18 acres, to permit 94 single-family lots. And item number 7, BL 2021-1002, ordinance to authorize building material restrictions requirements for BL 2021-1001, proposed specific plan zoning district located at 6103 Mount View Road, at the northeast corner of Mount View Road and Hamilton Church Road is 22.18 acres. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Allen, you recognized on those two measures.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move to defer these to March without having the public hearing with a brief explanation.
Okay, so the motion is to defer both these measures to the first meeting in March. Properly seconded. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This has involved a number of community meetings, and work is not necessarily complete. And in addition to that, there was a mix-up on the notices. The notices were sent out in a timely fashion, but the receipt of the notices was not recorded. And that was reported to the neighbors that there would not be a public hearing. And when we discovered the mistake, I didn't think it would be a good idea to then tell the neighbors 8 hours ahead of time that there was going to be a public hearing after all. And they had asked for deferral till March, and I want to honor that and hope that we can continue to work on this and get to a project that everyone is comfortable with. So with that, I renew my motion for deferral to March.
All right, so Councilmember Allen has moved both 2021-1001 and 1002, moved to defer both those measures to the first meeting in March, and it was properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the deferral motion say aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Both those measures will be deferred to the first meeting in March. Item number 8, this is BL 2021-1007 by Councilmember Lee. It can be taken with item number 27, which is on page 13 of my agenda. Item number 27 is BL 2021-1048. I'll read both the captions. BL 2021-1007, ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from AR2A to SP zoning for properties located at 3163 and 3165 Anderson Road. Northern terminus of Hamilton Lane is 12.8 acres. And then item number 27, BL 2021-1048 by Councilmember Lee. Ordinance to authorize building material restrictions requirements for BL 2021-1007. Proposed specific plan zoning district located at 3163 and 3165 Anderson Road, northern terminus of Hamilton Lane. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Lee, you're recognized on both those measures.
Yes, sir. I would like to open the public hearing, please.
All right, so we're on 1007 and 1048, both those bills. Show of hands, I'm going to declare the public hearing open. You're way ahead of me. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of the measure. Okay, thank you. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to the measure. I see nobody in opposition. Anybody in favor wish to speak? This is your chance to be on television. All right, I see nobody getting up. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Lee, you're on your two bills.
Yes, sir. I would like to move Bill 2021-1007 and 2021-1048. I would like to move them, please.
All right, so the motion is to approve them on second reading, both those bills properly seconded. Any discussion on those two measures? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. We're voting on 1007 and 1048. All those in favor of a passage on second reading tonight, say aye. Opposed, no. Both those bills pass on second reading. Thank you,
sir.
Councilmember Lee. Thank you all for being here. The next bill up is item number 9. It is by Councilmember Withers, Bill 2021-1022, an ordinance to amend Title 17 to update the corridor design overlay and the residential accessory structure overlay within Chapter 17.36.20, 17.36.540, 17.36.590, related to permitted facade materials. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of the buildings. Councilmember Withers, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, I'm going to declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. A show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. I see nobody on either side. Councilmember Withers, declare the public hearing closed. You're on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval.
Okay, the motion is to approve, properly seconded. Any discussion on this measure? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Bill passes on second reading. We're on item number 10, BL 2021-1030 by Councilmember Hager. It can be taken with item number 11, BL 2021-1030 and 1031. BL 2021-1030 is an ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from R15 and R8 to SP zoning for properties located at Old Hickory Boulevard, unnumbered, and 4321 Old Hickory Boulevard, approximately 470 feet north of Grandwood Boulevard. It's 8.52 acres. And then BL 2021-1031 by Councilmember Hager, ordinance authorized building material restrictions requirements for BL 2021-1030, proposed specific plan zoning district located at 4321 Old Hickory Boulevard, approximately 470 feet north of Grandwood Boulevard. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Hager, you are on those two measures.
Move for the open the public hearing, please.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of those two measures. Okay, thank you. Show of hands of anyone here in opposition to the two measures. See nobody in opposition. Anybody in favor wish to speak? All right, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Hager, you're on your two bills.
Move for passage on both of them, please.
All right, we're on 1030 and 1031. Proper motion, proper second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of 1030 and 1031 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Those two bills pass on second reading. Thank you, Councilmember Hager. You've got the next two. Item number 12, BL 2021-1032 by Councilmember Hager. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by canceling a portion of a planned unit development overlay district properly located at 4321 Old Hickory Boulevard, approximately 430 feet north of Grandwood Boulevard. It's zoned R15. It's 4.92 acres. Councilmember Hager, you're on your bill.
Move to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay, show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. The same three people. Would anybody want to speak on this one? All right, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Hager, you're on the bill.
Move for passage, please.
Okay, we're on BL 2021-1032 for passage on second reading. Councilmember Hager has moved approval. Properly seconded. Any discussion on this measure? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. We're on BL 2021-1032. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. Councilmember Hager, you're still up. BL 2021-1033. This is item number 13. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by canceling a planned unit development located at Old Hickory Boulevard, unnumbered, approximately 400 feet south of Southwark Boulevard. It's 3.6 acres, zoned R8. Councilmember Hager, you're on your bill.
Move to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. You're the only one in favor? You're sitting with two people. There you go. Okay. Anybody here in opposition to this measure? All right, this is maybe your last chance. Anybody wish to speak? All right. Public hearing is closed. Councilmember Hager, you're on your bill.
Move for passage, please.
All right, we're on BL 2021-1033. Proper motion, proper second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes. Thank you, Councilmember Hager. Thank you. We're now on item number 14, BL 2021-1034. That can be taken with item number 15, BL 2021-1035. These are both by Councilmember Toombs. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from R8 to SP zoning for properties located at 2111 and 2115 West Summit Avenue, 2151 Summit Avenue, approximately 330 feet northeast of Reshna Lane and located within a commercial plan unit development overlay district, 14.96 acres. And then BL 2021-1035, the companion bill, ordinance to authorize building material restrictions requirements for BL 2021-1034, a proposed specific plan zoning district located at 2111, 2115 West Summit Avenue and 2151 Summit Avenue, approximately 330 feet northeast of Reshna Lane, located within a commercial plan unit development overlay district. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials restricting the construction of the buildings. Councilmember Toombs, you're on your bills.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
All right, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of these measures. All right, thank you. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to these measures. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak? Don't see anybody coming up. Close the public hearing. Councilmember Toombs, you're on your bills.
Thank you. Move for approval.
Okay, Councilmember Toombs says move for approval on 1034 and 1035. Properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? This is for passage on second reading. Seeing none, ready to vote. All those in favor on 1034 and 1035 of passage on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. Both those bills pass on second reading. Councilmember Toombs, you're still up. We're on item number 16, BL 2021-1036. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by canceling a planned unit development on properties located at 2111, 2115 Summit Avenue, approximately 330 feet northeast of Reshna Lane, 14.56 acres, zoned R8. Councilmember Toombs, you're on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice.
I'm looking at the screen. Apparently it showed up and you got 33 votes. There we go. BL 2021-1036, you're on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Anybody in favor wish to speak? Okay, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Toombs, you're on your bill.
Thank you. Move for approval.
Okay, Councilmember Toombs has moved approval of BL 2021-1036. Properly seconded. Any discussion on that bill? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. All right, Councilmember Sledge, you're next. We've got two bills that we can take together. BL 2021-1037 and BL 2021-1038. 1037, ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from R8 and CS to SP zoning for property located at 2206, 2208, 2212, 2214, 2218, 2220, 12th Avenue South, approximately 80 feet south of Lawrence Avenue, is 1.87 acres. And then BL 2021-1038, that's the companion bill, ordinance authorized building material restrictions requirements for BL 2021-1037. Proposed specific plan zoning district located at 2206, 2208, 2212, 2214, 2218, 2220, 12th Avenue South. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized on both those measures.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to defer to the public hearing in February, please.
You want to defer both of those into the first meeting in February? Okay. So the motion is to defer to the first meeting in February, so no public hearing tonight. Properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral motion? Seeing none, we're on 1037 and 1038. The motion is to defer to the first meeting in February. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion to defer is adopted. Okay, thank you, Councilmember Sledge. Councilmember Syracuse, you're next. We're on BL 2021 1039 and 1040. Those bills can be taken together. 1039, ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from RS10 to SP zoning for properties located at 1736 and 1738 Lebanon Pike, approximately 220 feet southwest of Cloverneck Drive at 7.12 acres to permit 52 multifamily residential units. And the companion bill, which is BL 2021-1040, ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for BL 2021-1039, proposed specific plan zoning district located at 1736 and 1738 Lebanon Pike. Proposed ordinance requires certain materials to be restricted in the construction of buildings. Councilmember Syracuse, you recognize both those measures.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Open the public hearing, please.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of those measures. All right, show of hands of those who are here in opposition to those measures. Don't see anybody in opposition, and those in favor do not wish to speak. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Syracuse, you're on your two bills.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval of both bills.
Okay, so I got a motion to approve 1039 and 1040 properly seconded. Any discussion on those two measures? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of those two measures for passage on second reading say aye. Anybody opposed? Both those bills pass on second reading. We're on item number 21, BL 2021-1041 by Councilmember O'Connell. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from DTC to SP zoning for properties located at 170 through 176 2nd Avenue North, approximately 115 feet southeast of Church Street and located within the 2nd Avenue Historic Preservation District overlay. It's 0.63 acres. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay. Declare the public hearing open on BL 2021-1041. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. I didn't see anybody on either side. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember O'Connell, you're on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move approval of a brief comment.
All right. So the motion is to approve on second reading. It's been properly seconded. Back to you, Councilmember O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. President. You'll note on this bill, colleagues, that this is a stretch of buildings on 2nd Avenue, which really bore the brunt of most of the blast from last year's, or now, I guess, 2020's Christmas Day bombing. This rezoning represents a significant step forward for the entire historic 2nd Avenue corridor, and this zoning bill is really an extensive collaboration that involved the mayor's office, Metro Planning, Metro Historic, partners like Historic Nashville, the district, which is a nonprofit steward of the contiguous historic areas in downtown, and it is a best effort at preservation. This will result in as little demolition activity as possible. It will result in as much facade preservation as possible. I don't know if you have not been to this area in person. It was just reopened to some pedestrian and motorist traffic just before the holidays. And if you have seen this particular stretch of buildings, they were severely damaged. So to recover much of anything is a testament to the work of people committed to preservation. The plan itself, if you get a chance to look at it, I hope it comes to pass, because what is anticipated here would be both preservation and kind of a look backward in time as much as possible, but also a look to the future and really breathe new life into both 1st and 2nd Avenues. And I strongly encourage colleagues to support this. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Again, we're on BL 2021-1041, excuse me. It's been properly moved, properly seconded for passage on second reading. Any discussion on the measure? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the passage on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. We're on item number 22, Bill 2021-1042 by Councilmember Glover and Roten. Ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code by changing from MULA to CS zoning for property located at 304 Old Lebanon, I think it's Old Lebanon Dirt Road, southern terminus of Weber Road. It's 6.94 acres. Councilmember Roten, you're on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Move to open the public hearing.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Don't see anybody either way. Declare the public hearing closed.
Move approval.
Councilmember Roten has moved for approval on BL 2021-1042. Properly seconded. Councilmember Hager is going to need to abstain on this measure. Councilmember Hager. Any other discussion on this measure? Again, we're on BL 2021-1042. All those in favor of the measure say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading, and Councilmember Hager will be listed as abstaining. We're on BL 2021-1044 by Councilmember O'Connell. Ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code by canceling a commercial plan unit development overlay district on property located at 424 Church Street, northeast corner of Representative John Lewis Way North, and Church Street Zone DTC and within the Capitol Mall Redevelopment District overlay. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Seeing nobody in opposition, those in favor wish to speak. Okay, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move approval.
Okay, Councilmember O'Connell has moved approval of BL 2021-1044 on second reading, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of 2021-1044 on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. Councilmember Van Rees, you got the next one, BL 2021-1045, ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from RS20 to RM9 NS zoning for properties located at 115 and 117 East Campbell Road and 226 Old Amqui Road, approximately 330 feet east of Highland Circle, 2.59 acres. Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized on your bill.
Yes, sir. Move to open the public hearing, please.
Declare the public hearing open. Show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Don't see anybody in opposition. Those in favor wish to speak. All right. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized on your bill.
I would like to move approval, please.
Councilmember Van Rees has moved approval of BL 2021-1045, properly seconded. Any discussion on the measure? Seeing none, all those in favor of BL 2021-1045 for passage on second reading say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. We're on Councilmember Hall's bill, BL 2021-1046, ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code by change from RS15 to RM9 NS zoning for property located at Ashland City, I think it's Ashland City Highway, approximately 340 feet west of Cato Road, 3.29 acres. Councilmember Hall, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. Okay. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Seeing nobody in opposition, those in favor wish to speak. Okay, nope. Declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Hall, you're on your bill.
Move for approval, please.
Councilmember Hall has moved for approval of BL 2021-1046, properly seconded. Any discussion on the measure? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. We're on BL 2021-1046. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. We're on BL 2021-1047 by Councilmember Vercher. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by change from R10 to SP zoning for property located at, Ordinance to amend Title 17 by changing from R10 to SP zoning for property located at Murfreesboro Pike unnumbered, approximately 560 feet southeast of Town Park Drive, located within the Murfreesboro Pike at Antioch Urban Design Overlay District. It's 1.73 acres. Bill 2021-1047. Councilmember Vercher, you're on your bill.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
All right, declare the public hearing open. A show of hands of those who are here in favor of this measure. All right, thank you. Show of hands of those who are here in opposition to this measure. Seeing nobody in opposition, those in favor wish to speak. All right, declare the public hearing closed. Councilmember Vercher, you're on your bill.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment. This is going to come back on third. We're going to change a little bit of language in here as it relates to the height of the fence. So I just wanted to be on record and assure the neighbors that the work is still being done on this. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
All right, so the motion is to approve on second reading, and then it'll stay on the course, but you're looking at a possible amendment. Okay, so the motion before us is to move approval on Bill 2021-1047 for passage tonight on second reading. Properly seconded. Any discussion on this measure? Seeing none, all those in favor of Bill 2021-1047 for passage on second reading, say aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes on second reading. And I believe that's it. We've already taken care of item number 27.
Sneaky. On to the consent agenda. The following items are on consent. RS 2022-1306, 1309, 1311, 1320, 1322, 1323, 1324, and 1325. Does anything need to come off? Okay. RS 2022-1306 by Parker extends the provisions of the Metro Code relative to sidewalk cafes. RS 2022-1309 by Vercher approves the election of certain notaries public for Davidson County. RS 2022-1311 by Gamble, Johnston, Allen, Young, and Withers appropriates $15 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds to the Metro Development and Housing Authority to improve infrastructure at Casey Place and to increase safety at Cumberland View. RS 2022-1320 by Van Rees, Allen, Withers, and Young approves an amendment to an agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure with the construction of Hart Lane east of Whitney Park Drive. RS 22-1322 by O'Connell, Withers, and Young authorizes Bootleggers Nashville LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 207 Broadway. RS 22-1323 by Sledge, Parker, and others requests Metro government investigate the feasibility of providing free parking for public meetings held at the historic Metro Courthouse. RS 22-1324 by Allen and Young authorizes Metro government to enter into an agreement with the city of Brentwood for the sale of water. RS 22-1325 by Allen authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the property damage claim of Rex T. Fitzgerald against Metro government in the amount of $17,514.21. Committee reports Affordable Housing, Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Affordable Housing considered Resolution 2022-1311. We recommended approval 7-4-0 against.
Thank you, Councilmember. Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Budget and Finance considered Resolution RS 2022-1311 and 1320, 1324, and 1325, and recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilmember. Government Ops, Councilmember Hancock.
Government Ops considered Resolution 2022-1306, and for the second time this year, we voted unanimously in favor, 6 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilmember. Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Withers.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. Planning and Zoning considered RS 2022-1320 and RS 2022-1322 and recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against on both items.
Thank you, Councilmember. Rules, Councilmember Vercher.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. RS 2022-1309, rules recommended approval, 5-4-0 against.
Did you say 1309 and 1323?
I don't have 1323, we recommended approval, 5-4-0 against.
Great, thank you. And Transportation Infrastructure, Councilmember Young.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem. RS 2022-1311, 1320, 1322, and 1324 were all recommended for approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, and I'll move the consent agenda.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Consent agenda passes.
Here's my glasses. All right, so we're ready to go back to the first item on resolutions that was not on the consent agenda. That is RS 2021-1251 by Council Members Roten, O'Connell, Rosenberg, Roberts, and a host of other members of the council. Resolution to repeal resolution number RS 2018-1171 related to the vehicle inspection program. Councilmember Roten, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Yes, this is the resolution to repeal the emissions testing in Davidson County. We had to put a late filed amendment on this at the recommendation of legal. We had at the previous council meeting when we discussed this and deferred it until today, we had an amendment on there to end it on January the 14th. Legal, in looking at the contract, decided that a 30-day notice for the emission testing folks was in the contract and that that's what we should do. And so they asked me late yesterday afternoon to file a late amendment for a 30-day notice, so they could give a 30-day notice, the Department of Health, to the emission testing centers. So with that, I would like to move to suspend the rules for approval of the late filed amendment.
Councilman Roten, we were just checking. There's a budget committee report. We're going to get that first, and then I'm going to come back to you if that's okay.
It's my understanding that we had no rule before the budget committee at the time that we discussed what the rule would be,
right,
but we did not have a committee. We did not have a rule before us. Therefore, we did not.
Okay. All right. So I think we understand that. We understand that this is a late filed amendment.
It came before the Rules Committee, so.
It did come before, the first resolution came before budget. So I think what we'd like to do is go ahead and get the budget report. Then I'm going to come back to you. Then you're going to move to suspend the rules, and then I'll go to Councilmember Vercher. Okay? Councilmember Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered the resolution as presented, knowing that there would be an amendment that we couldn't vote on, but we voted on what was before us, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councilmember Roten, now what you've got is you have moved to suspend the rules to get the late filed amendment before this body tonight. Councilmember Vercher, did this come before the Rules Committee?
It did, Vice Mayor. There were no objections.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Vercher. Okay, so Councilmember Roten has moved to suspend the rules to get a late filed amendment onto this resolution tonight. Is there any objection to suspension of the rules to get the resolution before us? I'm looking, no objection. Councilmember Roten, you're on your late filed amendment.
And I would move the amendment.
Okay, so you've heard an explanation. Councilmember Roten has moved for passage of this late filed amendment to RS 2021-1251, properly seconded. Any questions on the amendment? All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote. This is on the late filed amendment to the resolution. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment's adopted. Councilmember Roten, you are on RS 2021-1251 as amended. You're on your resolution as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I discussed this a lot at our last council meeting where this was discussed, and I'll try to be a little briefer tonight. Obviously, this is repealing the emissions testing that is going on in Davidson County right now. It's been going on 40 years now. When I was a young kid, started driving, that's when this began. Obviously, within the last 10, 15 years, we've had a lot cleaner cars on the roads. The Biden administration just issued rules for even cleaner emission standards over the next 4 years. We have a lot of electric vehicles coming on the road, and a lot of the large manufacturers are moving toward electric vehicles, making our air cleaner. The EPA gave us the opportunity to repeal this because they they noted that our emissions, our air quality had reached the level where we could end this program if we wanted to. All of the surrounding counties around us have ended the program, and it will end on January 14th, and all of the surrounding counties. All those surrounding counties have close to 2 million people in those counties, and as you are all aware, driving on the roads every day, at least half of those people are on the roads in Davidson County. So I think it's time for us to end this program. We have a lot of much more cleaner vehicles. I think not requiring folks to sit in lines to do this. I just think it's the right time. So with that, Mr. Vice Mayor, I would move approval.
All right, so Councilmember Roten has moved approval of RS 2021-1251 as amended. Again, properly seconded. Councilmember Roten, I was going to ask you what kind of car you were driving 40 years ago.
That was a 1978 Cutlass Supreme. It also had tinted windows and a very nice stereo in it.
All right. Having said that, Councilmember Rosenberg, same question to you.
Thank you. I was driving a Little Tykes blue, yellow, and orange thing around my family's living room. The stereo was incredible.
We know which one was sending out more pollutants into the air. All right, yeah. Councilmember Rosenberg.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the gentleman who's still driving a 78 Cutlass Supreme for his steadfastness in ending this. I know he wanted to end it as quickly as possible. I would like to note that it's unfortunate that some commitments were conveyed to this body by people who are not in the room tonight, that if we agreed to defer this until this meeting, that they would commit to allowing the program to end by January 28th, to end in less than 30 days. And it's unfortunate that we were lied to, and I guess we know who we shouldn't be trusting moving forward. But I am very thankful this is about to end, and thanks, Councilmember, for bringing it.
All right, Councilmember Hancock, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Councilmember Roten for bringing forward a piece of legislation that a lot of our constituents are asking for. I do want to object to the statement that we are doing better now with the EPA standards. We are actually not doing better, but the EPA lowered their standards, so that makes it look like that. And I also just want to point out that not everyone in Nashville can afford these brand new cars that are doing a lot better with their emission standards. However, I did come to the meeting last month where the health department had taken a look at all of the emissions and realized and told us about the fact that only 3% of the emissions in our city are affected by our personal automobiles. And because of that, they also didn't think that there was a reason to continue with the emissions testing. So I respect that, and it was at that meeting that they also explained to us the legality of the contract and the 30 days required to end the contract. So I am supportive of this legislation. I think that the fact that a lot of the emission problems we have come from the state, and we can do other things to help clean up our air is fantastic, and we can concentrate on that. So with that, I will support this legislation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And since we were talking about cars, I thought I'd just say that I was driving a Diamond in the back, sun rooftop, digging this in. I call the question, please.
So she can't call the question. You know, Councilmember Hurt, you're not allowed to call the question after you've talked about something else, even though I'm not sure what you actually talked about was. She sang about it. I think we're going to have to go to the rule book. Actually, we only got one more person in the queue, so we're good. Councilmember Young.
I'm going to surprise y'all. I actually, rather than a previous question, I actually have my own question to ask. In all seriousness, with this, so that I, myself, and others can explain this properly to our constituents, so this will end, I guess, once 30 days notice is given. And so the question that everyone's going to want to know the answer to is, when is the program actually ending? When do folks need to no longer worry about going and going through and having their emissions tested? So I don't know if Ms. Zeitlin has an answer for that, or if maybe anyone with an answer, please.
We're going to go to the administration table. Mr. Jameson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Councilman Young. First, I guess for the record, I should note that 40 years ago, I was driving a Chariot, for the record, if anyone wants to know. There is a specific provision in the contract that requires a 30-day termination notice to the vendor. That letter is drafted and ready to go without being presumptuous, but should the council vote this, that will be issued first thing in the morning to Opus, the vendor. And then termination would be on, I presume there are 31 days in January, so February 4th. That will be the formal termination of the contract. There is the recognition that the attention given to this by the council and the press, that members of the public may say, it's ending in January, it's ending in February, I'm not going to go get tested. We are not encouraging that, but we can't preclude that. And that's about as much guidance as we can give. I'm myself due for inspection in January. I will go just to be technically compliant, but I anticipate that may not be the response of many of our constituents.
Okay, Councilmember Young.
That was what I wanted to hear, because I wasn't exactly sure of that question. So, and since we're talking about it, 40 years ago, I wasn't here, but I'll tell you.
I just cut off your microphone. So I've got two people that have not spoken yet on this matter, so I have to go jump over Councilmember Rosenberg. Councilmember Hauser, you're recognized.
I just have a question in regards to if the EPA at some later date determines that we are no longer in compliance, what would the process be to get the testing centers back up, and what would the time frame need to be for that?
I'm going to go to Ms. Zeitlin and then maybe to the administration.
I'll try to start, but I'm not sure that I can answer that last part. So there are provisions in the state law that if the EPA mandates a vehicle, if Metro gets out of compliance with the EPA regulations, and is mandated to institute some sort of program, the state law does allow for that avenue. So this is not putting Metro in a position where it can never implement a vehicle inspection program again. But I'm not sure that I can speak to the practicalities of how.
No, that's right. And the state version, the state implementation plan specifically holds that reservation allowance. The state legislation also allows for the county to impose other air quality provisions. I think there are members of the council that are exploring that currently, should we risk that level of noncompliance. No indication of that yet, but there are a couple of options we'd have at our ready disposal should we hit that need.
Councilmember Hausler, anything else? Okay. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I was driving a little red Volkswagen Rabbit 40 years ago.
I think you still
To
are.
follow up,
I saw it downstairs.
it's yellow now and it's electric. But to follow up on the question that the previous council member asked, if someone wants to renew a tag, is the Metro clerk going to require proof of an emissions test for cars that expire in January? Does anyone know the answer to that one?
Mr. Jameson.
I'm in that boat, and I'm due in January. As of this morning, the website would still instruct you to get your clearance from the testing program, as that should be. No one can presume that this council is going to take action. We will be in contact with the clerk's office in the morning to make sure they have adjusted accordingly and submitted the proper notice to those who, like me, are due in January.
Councilmember Allen, anything else?
So if the program doesn't end until February 4, are you required to or not?
Right. So there will be a 3 to 4 day period where there's a level of uncertainty. As you know, the program is set up so that there's not a specific date compliance within the month, right? For those due in January, it's due January 31st, just at the end of the month, February, and so forth. So you would be due January 31st, but technically you won't have contract termination until February 4th. There is that window. I think all parties would agree eventually there's some de minimis value in perpetuating a program that is on life support for a couple of days. My guess, I can't guarantee, but my guess is the county clerk's office will elect, and again, I don't want to necessarily guarantee this, but they would elect not to proceed with enforcement given the certainty of the contract termination on February.
Okay. Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Allen had asked my question, but I just wanted to state for the record, since my fellow colleague in the under 30 caucus was cut off, that I was also not here.
I was getting ready to cut her microphone off as well. Anybody under 30. Councilmember Rosenberg, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, so to be clear, if somebody is supposed to get registered in January and they file their registration on February 4th without any emissions, will they be able to register their car on February 4th without having gotten emissions done?
That is our expectation and understanding. But again, we once the council is formally acted, we can go to the county clerk's office and say, here's what the council is determined to do. What is your next step? We anticipate that the response will be, yes, you can register on February 4th without your emissions test. We will report that to the council tomorrow as soon as we have the absolute verification, but the clerk's office just can't speak in advance or in presumption of what the council will do tonight.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Some more people are showing up. Councilmember Lee, you're recognized.
Call for the question, please.
All right. The previous question has been called for. We're not voting on the resolution. We're just voting on the previous question. All those in favor of the previous question say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Previous question prevails. We are now voting on RS 2021-1251 as amended. This is Councilmember Roten's resolution repealing resolution number RS 2018-1171 related to the vehicle inspection program. That's what we're voting for. We'll do it by voice vote. All those in favor of the resolution as amended say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Resolution as amended passes. Thank you, Councilmember Roden. We are now on RS 2022-1307 by Councilmember Gamble, Johnston, Sepulveda, and others. This is a resolution appropriating $1,060,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds from Fund Number 30216, the Community Shelter Partnership Fund, to support evidence-based community solutions to interpersonal violence. I believe Councilmember Johnston, are you handling this one?
It appears so. Thank you. So this allocation is for $1,060,000 out of ARP funds, and it's in relation to the $1 million that we approved out of our operating budget last year for the Community Safety Partnership Fund. It's been brought to our attention that there's experts in this field that suggest that this program should go 18 to 24 months, and I think we had only allocated for about a year. So that's where $750,000 is going, is to continue this pilot for the 18 to 24 recommended months. In addition to that, they suggest that there be a project manager, because there are so many contracts that are coming through the partnership that have to be approved and managed, that someone needs to have the title and the responsibility to do that. So that's $240,000 for a project manager and contract management assistance for the 2 to 3 year project, 2 to 3 years for the project. The rest is $70,000 for community engagement and community organizing. Again, this is to address the cure violence and community safety, which I know that everyone is interested in, so I do think it is an appropriate use of funds, and it's needed, and I would request your approval, please.
All right, so we need a couple of committee reports.
I'm sorry,
First, that's
committee
okay.
reports.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against.
All right, and Public Health and Safety, Councilmember Evans.
Public Health and Safety could not vote due to no quorum.
Okay, but I think we've got one committee report in, so we can actually move this one. Councilmember Johnston, I'll come back to you for a motion to figure out what you want to do.
Move to approve, please.
All right, Councilmember Johnston has moved for approval on RS 2022-1307, properly seconded. Discussion on the resolution. Seeing none, all those in favor of RS 2022-1307 for passage, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The resolution passes. Thank you, Councilmember Johnston. We're on RS 2022-1308. Councilmembers Allen, Evans, and Welsh. Resolution accepting coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance Administration to the Metro government through the juvenile court to continue to enhance the court's COVID-19 preparedness plan, purchase personal protective equipment to minimize exposure to hazards in the workplace. Councilmember Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Public Health and Safety, Councilmember Evans.
We could not vote due to no quorum. Thank you.
All right, so let's go back to Budget and Finance. You got a committee report on this?
Yes, Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I move approval.
Okay, so Councilmember Allen moves approval on RS 2022-1308, properly seconded. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of 1308 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Resolution is adopted. We're on item number 33, RS 2022-1310, by Councilmembers Gamble, Johnson, Sepulveda, and others. Resolution appropriating $300,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds from Fund Number 30216 to the Metropolitan Development and Housing Authority to fund the Napier-Sudacom Community Safety Plan. Councilmember Johnston, I'll come back to you.
Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against.
All right, and Councilmember Evans?
We couldn't vote.
Okay. All right. So you do have a committee report in. So Councilmember Johnston, I'll come back to you.
Thank you. Would like to move approval with a brief explanation.
Okay. Got a motion to approve. Properly seconded. Back to you.
MDHA and the Mayor's Office, in coordination with Councilmember Fredley O'Connell, actually assembled a working group composed of the leaders of the Napier and Sudacom resident associations, nonprofit and Metro partners, to identify problems and prioritize solutions. Much of that was actually funded in our recent CSP, but there was $300,000 that came to the COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee to address $210,000 that would go towards for nonprofits working in the area, administered through the Community Safety Partnership Fund. $60,000 would go to the Napier Recreation Center for some upgrades, equipment, et cetera. And $30,000 for the MNPD Community Engagement Team, including bicycles for both police and residents, among other things, community programming, and then $10,000 to the Pruitt branch of the Nashville Public Library for equipment and additional programming. Again, this was a lot of community engagement with this particular community, so we were actually very excited to make this recommendation from the committee, and I would ask for your approval.
Okay. So what we've got is RS 2022-1310. Councilmember Johnston is moving approval of this one, properly seconded again. Any discussion on RS 2022-1310? Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Councilmember Johnson and the members of the ARP Oversight Committee, and then I want to especially thank John Bunton and the Mayor's Office on this. This has been an effort that, for me personally, in terms of representing District 19, has been years in the making, but with the Mayor's Office involvement in this administration has been several months in the making with lots of stakeholders that you heard from Councilmember Johnson. And this is going to mean a lot to a whole lot of people, and especially in terms of legitimate community safety and quality of life in a community that has struggled to get resources into the community historically. So really pleased about this request. Strongly support it and encourage colleagues to as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Any other discussion on this one? We're on RS 2022-1310. Motion is to pass. Again, properly seconded. Ready to vote? All those in favor of passage of RS 2022-1310, say aye. Opposed, no. Resolution passes. We're on item number 35. This is by Councilmember Allen and Evans. RS 2022-1312, resolution appropriating to certain accounts for the benefit of the administrative departments in the Metro Police Department, $8,135,000. Councilmember Allen, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Public Health and Safety.
Public Health and Safety was not able to vote due to no quorum.
All right, we are back to Councilmember Allen.
Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I move approval.
Okay, so Councilmember Allen has moved approval of RS 2022-1312. Properly seconded. Discussion on the resolution. All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of RS 2022-1312 for passage, say aye. Opposed, no. I think I heard a no. Okay. I heard Councilmember Welsh, Councilmember Parker vote no. Anybody else? Councilmember Sepulveda votes no. Anybody else? All right, so the resolution passes with 3 no votes, okay? We're on item number 36, RS 2022-1313 by Councilmember Johnston, Gamble, Allen, and others. Resolution appropriating $350,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funds from Fund 30216 to the Metropolitan, to the Metro Nashville Police Department to expand the Partners in Care pilot program and to create a crisis intervention team training program. Councilmember Johnston, you're recognized.
Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against.
And I hate to ask this, Councilmember Evans.
Hey, guess what? We couldn't vote. Thank you.
All right, you've got a committee report in, though, Councilmember Johnston, on your resolution.
Thank you. So we actually just received an update from the Partners in Care pilot that we started back in November, and I think that everyone would agree that that has been a very successful program. And so in anticipation of expanding that from the existing 2 precincts that we have, that was going to require training for our officers. And so this is basically exactly that. It's just funding training for the rest of FY22, FY23, 24, and 25 for this very important program. I'd ask your approval.
All right, we are on RS 2022-1313. The motion is to pass this resolution, properly seconded. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. We're voting on RS 2022-1313. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Resolution passes. Thank you, Councilmember Johnston. We're now on Item number 37, 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41 are similar, but they do have separate amendments, so we're going to have to take them separately. RS 2022-1314 by Councilmember Allen and Evans. This is 1314 is a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County through the Police Department in the city of Cookeville through their police department for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Councilmember Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Evans.
Thank you. Public Safety was unable to vote due to lack of quorum.
All right. I need to find out who's on that committee. No, I'm just kidding.
They're not here.
All right. Councilmember Allen, Budget Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I'd like to move for approval with a brief explanation.
All right. So the motion is to approve on RS 2022-1314, properly seconded. Back to you.
So just to say, all 5 of these bills are funding for internet crimes against children with different cities. So just to speed up a little bit of what you're going to be reading, it's the very same thing except different cities on that. And the amendment that I'm going to move is simply to correct the contract number, which had a typo in it. And for each one of these, we are replacing the contract with the correct contract number on those. So I'd like to move the amendment.
All right. So Councilmember Allen has moved, and I believe it's a late filed amendment.
I'm sorry, it was late filed. I went before rules.
Okay. So Councilmember Allen wants to get a late filed amendment before us.
Late filed.
All right. All right. Councilmember Vercher, Councilmember Allen came before you on a late filed amendment on item number 1314. This is item number 37.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, are we going to take all of them at the same time?
That's what I've been talking to our legal director about, to see if we can just do them all at the same time.
There's no objections from the body.
I know, but my legal director is objecting.
With the rules, Chair?
You all take it outside and figure it out. All right, just, I'll tell you what, Councilmember Vercher, just kind of stand around and I'll just keep calling on you.
There were no objections on any of the amendments, Vice Mayor.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Vercher, you can sit down. I think we got something worked out here. All right, so Councilmember Vercher has indicated that Councilmember Allen came before the Rules Committee on 1314, 1315, 1316, 1317, and 1318 with late filed amendments. There is no objection. Councilmember Allen, back to you. You need to suspend the rules to get this before us.
I need to suspend the rules to move a late filed amendment, please.
All right. Is there any objection to suspension of rules to get this late filed amendment before us? Seeing none, rules are suspended. You're on your late filed amendment.
Okay, I move the amendment, which just corrects a typo.
All right. So Councilmember Allen has moved the amendment on 1314, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment's adopted. Councilmember Allen, you're on your resolution as amended.
Move the resolution as amended, please.
Okay. Councilmember Allen has moved 1314 as amended, properly seconded. All those in favor, or any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of RS 2022-1314 as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Resolution is adopted. Now we're ready to do the same thing on the next 4, RS 2022-1315. Councilmember Allen.
You're not going to read the caption?
Resolution, I was just trying to figure out a way to speed this up. Resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County through the Nashville Police Department and Dickson County bond through the Dickson County Sheriff's Office for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Committee reports.
So let me do this. On public health and safety, you all weren't able to meet on any of these.
No.
Okay, so
Thank
I'm
you.
going to stop calling on you, but I'll
Sounds
announce
good.
it. Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, as amended, and I move the amendment.
Okay, so there's a late filed amendment. Again, that has
I need
been
to suspend the
approved.
rules.
She went before the Rules Committee. It was approved. Councilmember Allen moved to suspend the rules to get before this. Any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, rules are suspended. You're on your late filed amendment.
Okay, move the amendment.
Councilmember Allen has moved the late filed amendment, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the late filed amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Move
Now
the
you're on
amendment.
your, now
Move
you're
the
on your
amendment
resolution as amended.
Move the amendment as amended.
Okay, so Councilmember Allen has moved RS 2022-1315 as amended. for passage, properly seconded. Any discussion on the resolution as amended? Seeing none, all those in favor of RS 2022-1315 as amended say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Resolution is passed. We're on item number 39, RS 2022-1316 by Allen and Evans. Resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between Nashville and the City of Spring Hill through the Police Department for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would like to give a committee report. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I need to suspend the rules for a late amendment.
Right, and I'll just say Public Health didn't have a quorum, so they couldn't give a report. So again, Rules Committee approved you, didn't have any objections to late filed amendment. Councilmember Allen has moved to suspend the rules to get the amendment before us. Any objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Councilmember Allen, you are on your amendment on 1316.
I'd like to move the amendment, please.
Councilmember Allen has moved this late filed amendment. You've heard the explanation of what it does. Properly seconded. Any discussion on the late filed amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the late filed amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Late filed amendment is adopted. You're on 1316 as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move the resolution as amended, please.
Okay, so 1316 as amended for passage. Any properly seconded? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution as amended say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Resolution as amended passes. We're on RS 2022-1317 by Councilmember Allen and Evans. Resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement between the police departments of Nashville and Williamson County for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. Actually, this goes to the Williamson County Sheriff's Office. Councilmember Allen, you're on RS 2022-1317.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'll give the committee report. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I would like to suspend the rules.
All right, we've heard from Rules. They have no objection. Councilmember Allen has moved to suspend the rules to get the late filed amendment before us. Any objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, rules are suspended. You're on your amendment.
Thank you. I'd like to move my amendment, please.
Councilmember Allen has moved the amendment, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment is adopted. You're on 1317 as amended.
I'd like to move the resolution as amended, please.
All right, Councilmember Allen has moved 1317 as amended for passage, properly seconded. Any discussion on 1317? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. 1317 as amended passes. And the last one of these is item number 41, RS 2022-1318 by Allen and Evans. Resolution approving intergovernmental agreement between Nashville and the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police for the distribution of state grant funds to assist with investigations of internet crimes against children. It's handled by our police department. Councilmember Allen, you recognize on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I'd like to suspend the rules for a late filed amendment.
All right, once again, Public Health didn't have a quorum. Rules has said it was okay on the suspension of the rules. Councilmember Allen has moved to suspend the rules to get this late filed amendment before us. Any objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, rules are suspended. You're on your amendment.
Thank you. I'd like to move the amendment, please.
Okay, Councilmember Allen has moved the amendment, properly seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment's adopted. You're on your RS 2022-1318 as amended.
I'd like to move the resolution as amended.
All right, so Councilmember Allen has moved RS 2022-1318 as amended for passage, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of RS 2022-1318 as amended say aye. Opposed, no. Resolution 2022-1318 as amended passes. Thank you, Councilmember Allen. That was a lot of fun. Let's not do that again for a while. Item number 42, RS 2022-1319 by Councilmembers Allen, Evans, and Welsh. Resolution approving Amendment 1 to a grant from the State of Tennessee Department of Health to the Metropolitan Government, acting through the Board of Health to facilitate the planning, implementation, and evaluation of community-driven and evidence-based health promotion programs. Councilmember Allen, once again, you're up.
Committee reports, please.
I have a feeling Public Health didn't have a quorum, so it's up to you.
Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I move approval.
All right, so Councilmember Allen has moved approval of RS 2022-1319, properly seconded. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. RS 2022-1319. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. 1319 passes. The resolution passes. We are on RS 2022-1321. It's item number 44. Council members Withers and Young. This is a resolution authorizing Eastwood Deli Company, LLC, to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 1896 Eastland Avenue. Councilmember Withers, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. And just wanted to clarify, this is item number 44, RS 2022-1321.
That's right, item 44.
For Eastwood Deli. Could I get the committee, I guess I'll give my own committee report.
You can give your own.
Which is that we recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against.
And Transportation and Infrastructure, Councilmember Young.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. If you don't cut off my mic, I'll be happy to give the committee report for this one. And I was going to say, I wasn't born when the emissions testing began. That was what I was going to say before you so rudely cut me off.
All right.
Now, as this relates to an aerial encroachment for the Eastwood Deli, the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee recommended approval, 9 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Young. Councilmember Withers, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to have a late filed amendment that I need to apply.
All right, so Councilmember Withers has a late filed amendment. Councilmember Vercher, did Councilmember Withers wander into the Rules Committee?
He did. There was no objections.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Withers, back to you.
Thank you. I guess first I'd like to move the late filed amendment.
All right, so you need to suspend the rules to get
Yes,
it before us? All right, so Councilmember Withers has moved to suspend the rules to get the amendment before us. Is there any objection to suspension of the rules to get the late filed amendment before us? Councilmember O'Connell, objection, or do you just have a question? All right, so Councilmember Withers has moved to suspend the rules, no objection, the rules are suspended. You're on your late filed amendment.
Thank you. This is sort of a housekeeping matter to just clarify some insurance requirements related to the signage that's going to be installed. And so we were able to get in touch with the business owner, get that handled today in order to keep this moving in a timely fashion.
All right, so you've heard an explanation of the amendment. Councilmember Withers moves the amendment, properly seconded. Any questions about the amendment? Councilmember O'Connell on the amendment? Okay. So we're ready to vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment's adopted. You're on your resolution as amended.
Thank you. Just request council colleagues' support of this. It's just for signage for an existing building, just a new tenant in that existing building.
All right, so Councilmember O'Connell has moved approval of RS 2022-1321 as amended, properly seconded. Now, Councilmember O'Connell.
I think I need to be marked as abstaining on this one because I don't support aerial encroachments outside of District 19.
All right, do you want to do the same thing when his comes up next? All right, any other discussion on this? Seeing none, we're on RS 2022-1321. The resolution is to approve, the motion is to approve the resolution as amended, properly seconded. Again, all those in favor of the resolution as amended say aye. Opposed, no. Resolution as amended is adopted. All right. Actually, 1322 was on consent, so you didn't have to say anything, Councilmember O'Connell. We are now on item number 49, RS 2022-1326 by Council Members Gamble and Withers. So, Councilmember Withers, I'm coming to you. Resolution requesting Metropolitan Planning Commission and Metropolitan Planning Department review and amend as needed the current general plan for Nashville and Davidson County, Nashville next, the general plan for Nashville and Davidson County no later than June 30th, 2023. Councilmember Withers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. What I would
Councilmember Gamble's not here.
Is not present. Our committee recommended a 2-meeting deferral, and I would like to move that 2-meeting deferral, and then I'll provide a brief comment if I can.
All right. So Councilmember Withers has moved to defer this measure, RS 2022-1326. 2 meetings, properly seconded. Back to you.
And in case I didn't give that vote count, it was 8. Our committee recommended that 8 in favor, 0 against for the 2-meeting deferral. Just wanted to, we had a good discussion about this in the Planning and Zoning Committee, and I was grateful that we had planning staff here, including Director Lucy Kemp was able to join us for the discussion. Councilmember Gamble brought this just out of a concern from hearing from some various parts of the county that the Nashville Next community plans, the community character manual policies that are in place in certain areas may not quite be aligning with what neighbors are hoping to see in their community. She wanted to raise that issue. Obviously, we do have a community plan amendment process that typically happens with a rezoning, or it could happen with something like a corridor study, like was recently done with Dickerson Pike or something like that. So definitely there are some areas where the plan policy has been amended more recently than the adoption of Nashville Next. But Councilmember Gamble wanted to raise that issue just about what the process might be for taking a fresh look at Nashville Next a little bit more holistically. Planning Director Kemp has agreed to kind of get back to us in about 2 meetings. But in order to do that, what we would like for council members to do is to, if there are areas where council members feel like the community plan policy in parts of your districts may need some additional attention, if you could please email that to Director Kemp as well as, I believe, Mr. Claxton, pretty soon, by the end of this week or maybe early next week would be great. And like I said, that'll just help us to figure out what council members feel like potential problem areas are, so that planning staff can do some analysis and get back to us in 2 meetings. And if there are no other questions, I'll renew my motion for a 2-meeting deferral.
Okay, so the request by Councilmember Withers is, it's a motion to defer 2 meetings. It was been properly seconded. We're holding for just a second. We want to make sure we have a quorum.
Counting 26. Okay, then that's 27. Okay. Well, if they're counting 27, I counted 26, but maybe I just
Okay. All right. So we do have a quorum. All right. So the motion is to defer RS 2022-1326 2 meetings. Properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to defer 2 meetings say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion passes. Last bill up on resolutions is RS 2022-1327 by Councilmember Roberts and O'Connell. It's a resolution recognizing the 125th anniversary of R.H. Boyd Publishing Corporation. Councilmember Roberts, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
It's Rules and Confirmations, Councilmember Vercher. And she is not here. Councilmember Johnson's not here. Anybody else from Rules here? Councilmember Evans, do you know what the vote total was?
It was, I'm sorry, which one are you talking about?
This is on R.H. Boyd Publishing Corporation's 125.
5 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you. All right, Councilmember Roberts, you're recognized.
I would like to defer to Councilman O'Connell.
All right, Councilmember O'Connell, you're recognized on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a collaborative effort, and I'm going to need to suspend the rules to get an amendment with some technical corrections on it. I apologize for that, but I'll explain.
All right, so Councilmember Evans, did Councilmember O'Connell or somebody show up to talk about the late filed amendment?
I remember Councilman O'Connell leaving without speaking to it. And so I feel like somebody talked about it, but I don't know. We voted for everything 5 in favor, 0 against.
I was told that the amendment had been considered and approved, so I did not feel the need to stay after that point.
Then it was 5 in favor, 0 against.
But you did see him in the room.
He came in and turned around and rapidly left.
Okay, all right, well, that was probably close enough. All right, so Councilmember O'Connell, you're moving to suspend the rules to get the late filing.
Thank you.
All right. Any objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, rules are suspended. Councilmember O'Connell, you're on your late filed amendment.
Thank you. I'd like to move this late filed amendment. It literally just does have a couple of technical corrections requested by the family, so did want to get those incorporated before final passage, so encourage colleagues to support that.
All right. All right, so you've heard an explanation of the late filed amendment. Councilmember O'Connell has moved the late filed amendment, properly seconded. Discussion on the amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Amendment's adopted. We're on RS 2022-1327 as amended. Who wants to handle this one?
I'm happy
Councilmember O'Connell, Councilmember Roberts?
I'm happy to move for approval.
Okay, Councilmember Roberts has moved for approval of RS 2022-1327 as amended. Properly seconded by Councilmember O'Connell. Any discussion? Councilmember O'Connell, you want to be recognized again?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. President. Just by way of background here, this one kind of fell into that trap of an abbreviated calendar for filing and getting updates in, and just really want to express my appreciation to the council office staff for working with us and the Boyd family on this. And again, I think partly because of that timing with communication, we had intended to invite the minority caucus to participate in the resolution. It would be welcome anybody who wants to sign on at this point. Prior to it, we're happy to do the Murphy rule here if people like. But this was an extraordinary year for the R.H. Boyd Publishing Corporation, and we will look forward to welcoming them to the floor of council for a presentation at our next meeting. But if you would like to sign on, I'm happy to deploy the Murphy rule here. And very pleased to want to just say Dr. Boyd is my constituent. Their corporation headquarters is in Councilmember Roberts' district, and really appreciate her collaboration on this as we recognize the family and the business for its extraordinary achievements.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember O'Connell. Anybody else on this resolution? All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote. The motion is to approve RS 2022-1327 as amended. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Resolution is adopted. All right. Councilmember Hurt, you're recognized.
Thank you. Does that mean that everyone voting in the affirmative will be signed on to the legislation?
It doesn't, but I'm willing to do that if everybody would like to. Without objection, everybody who just voted in favor is listed as the sponsor of the measure. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, we are now on bills on introduction and first reading. Does any bills need to be considered separately? Anything needs to come off of bills on introduction and first reading? All right, seeing none, we're going to take all the bills together at one time. Is there a motion to approve all bills on introduction, first reading? I see a motion to approve and a properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of all bills on introduction, first reading say aye. Opposed, no. Bills on introduction, first reading pass. We are now on bills on second reading. Y'all hang with me. There's not a lot on third, but there's a few on second. Let me go through the consent calendar. Bills on second reading, these are on the consent calendar. Item number 67, BL 2021-897 is on consent. Item number 69, 1013 is on consent. Item number 73, 1050 is on consent. 1051 is on consent. 1052 is on consent. 1053 is on consent. 1054 is on consent, and 1055 is on consent. Things that need to be bumped off. Councilmember Sepulveda?
897.
897. First bill up will be bumped off the calendar. Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Did you say item 69 was on consent?
Yeah, item 69 is on consent.
Pull that, please.
Okay. All right, so the first two things I read, 897 and 1013, come off consent. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to read the captions on the bills on consent. First one up is item number 73, Bill 2021-1050 by Murphy and Benedict. Ordinance to amend Section 16.28.230 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding project information signs. Item number 74, BL 2021-1051, ordinance to adopt a plan for Metropolitan Council of Nashville and Davidson County Internet Forum. That's by Suara and Stiles. BL 2021-1052 by Councilmember Withers. Ordinance approving and adopting a plan for redistricting the council-mandated districts of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, revising the school districts pursuant to Article 18, Section 18.06 of the Metropolitan Charter. Item number 76, Bill 2021-1053, ordinance adopting the GIS system street and alley centerline layer, recommendations for renaming, additions, and deletions of acceptances and abandonments as reflected on the centerline layer to date, official street and alley acceptance and maintenance record for the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County. Item number 77, BL 2021-1054 by Councilmember Sledge. Ordinance approving an agreement by and between the Metropolitan Government, CSX Transportation, Inc., and Nashville Phase 2 Property Holder, LLC, for the construction of roadway and quiet zone improvements at the Chestnut Street and 4th Avenue South Railroad Crossing. That's by Councilmember Sledge. And item number 78, BL 2021-1055 by Councilmember Hurt and Taylor, an ordinance providing for the honorary street name designation of Charles Dungy Way for a portion of 40th Avenue North. Those are the bills on the second reading consent calendar. Anything else needs to be bumped off? All right, let's get committee reports in. I've got one from Budget and Finance. Councilmember Allen, don't have to worry about that one. That one was bumped. Government Operations and Regulations, Councilmember Hancock.
For Bill 2021-1050.
1050 and 1051.
And 51. You'll be completely surprised by this, but for the third and fourth time this year, the Government Operations and Regulations Committee was unanimous in their approval, 6 in favor, 0 against.
All right, thank you. Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Withers.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The Planning and Zoning Committee met and considered items BL 2021-1052 and 1053 and recommended approval of both, 8 in favor, 0 against.
All right, and the last committee report in is Councilmember Young, Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. BL 2021-1053, 1054, and 1055 were all recommended for approval, 9 in favor, 0 against, and I will move the consent agenda.
All right, Councilmember Young has moved the consent agenda properly seconded. Any discussion on the second reading consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion is adopted on bills on second reading. Okay, let's go back to the bills that weren't on it. The first one is item number 67, BL 2021-897 by Councilmember Sepulveda. Ordinance to amend Title 17 by applying a contextual overlay district to various properties located east of Nolensville Pike, Zone R10, R15, R20, and RS10. It's 101.34 acres. Councilmember Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Thank you. Move to defer 2 meetings.
All right, let's get a committee report in first. Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Withers.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The Planning and Zoning Committee recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, so you all recommended approval.
We did, and just if Councilmember Sepulveda would like to re-refer it to our committee, we're happy to entertain it again.
Okay, Councilmember Sepulveda, again, what would you like to do?
Yes, we can re-refer it. I was a couple of minutes late and had missed the consent agenda.
All right, so your motion is you want to defer how long?
2 meetings with the re-referral to planning.
2 meetings with the re-referral back to planning. Okay. Okay, the motion is to defer 2 meetings with a re-referral back to planning and zoning. Properly seconded. Any discussion on the deferral motion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Does somebody say aye? Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is approved. The deferral motion passes. All right, next item is BL 2021-1010 by Councilmember Glover. It's ordinance to amend Chapter 6.77 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws relative to operation of entertainment transportation vehicles. Councilmember Glover is not here, so it would be deferred 1 meeting, which is I believe that's an indefinite deferral because it's deferred 3 times. He can put it back on the agenda, but it's automatically deferred. Next item number 69, BL 2021-1013 by Van Reese, Allen, and others. Ordinance approving a lease agreement by and between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by through the Metropolitan Board of Education and Liberty Collegiate Academy. Councilmember Van Reese, you're recognized.
Committee reports.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against.
All right, back to you, Councilmember Van Reese.
With that, I move approval, please.
Okay, got a motion to approve, properly seconded. Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The questions I'm going to be asking pretty much go hand in hand with these following bills, 1013, 1014, and 1015. There's been a lot of discussion about the terms of the lease, and I know between these three bills that there's a range between $4 and $5 per square foot on this lease. My questions are, is that full market rate? Are we leasing these properties at the full market value?
You all know. We're discussing it. I'm going to go to Mr. Jameson from the administration.
I can repeat what I understood Mr. Profit to state, and he did dutifully appear here at the previous committee meetings, including those yesterday. They did do a market analysis and determined that this was a competitive rate for the uses that they thought were viable for these buildings. That's the extent of my recollection of what he stated. I believe he's had individual discussions with other council members who may recall more, but that's my recollection.
Do we have similar lease agreements with other entities, other groups, or is this purely for the charter schools?
I'm not aware of what MNPS has, but we can certainly make that request and see if we can obtain it either before deferred consideration or before third reading of this item.
Well, and my chief concern is if this is not the full market rate, if this is a discount given to these charter schools, which take funding from our traditional public schools and uses it for these basically privately run organizations that are not accountable to the taxpayers or to our school board, I'm having trouble reconciling why I should vote yes on this. I remember the talks were that this price was basically cover the bare minimum of, maintenance, janitorial, and et cetera. If we're just offering the bare minimum when we've got a school district that is desperate for money for school books, for support staff pay, for teacher pay, if this is an opportunity for us to bring in additional revenue to help our schools so that we're not passing more burden over to the taxpayers with future tax increases, we should be doing that and not giving a sweetheart deal to these parasitic schools in our city. And so I'm going to go on the record and vote no on the next three.
All right. Councilmember Van Rees, I'm coming back to you. Councilmember Van Rees.
Yes, I understand my colleagues' passion towards this subject. However, I'm at my wit's end for a Liberty Collegiate Academy being consistently kind of the first one up and therefore kind of talked about in the package of three different proposals. I am a council member representing this school, and I am proud of Liberty Collegiate Academy. And I'm proud of our school board member who works with our charter schools as well. And with that, I renew my motion for approval.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Van Rees. Councilmember Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I'll just go ahead and co-sign on to everything Councilmember Bradford just said. I am definitely concerned if we're giving a special deal to these corporations that are just making, there's the reason that hedge funds are so hugely invested in charter schools, and that there's a ton of money to be made. It's the opportunity to really get at what was always a public sector of government that hadn't been privatized. And it's unfortunately that's happened. And I'm definitely, I remember my recollection is the same as Councilmember Bradford's, and that's that we were asking for enough money on these leases to cover our costs versus looking at it as an opportunity to get market rate and recover some of the money that's being sucked out of our public school classrooms and into these charter corporations. So it's unfortunate, and I'd love to have answers on that at some point, and certainly wouldn't be comfortable voting in favor of any of the stuff, knowing that we're giving or without an assurance that this is not a sweetheart deal. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. David Profit did provide market rate studies that I believe, were provided to the entire council. I will go back and get those forwarded before third reading if they're not available. They were done by a third party, and they indicate that for institutional uses like education, that this is a competitive rate than it is based on actual data. And I will point out that, that these charters are nonprofits. They are not businesses that are, at least the ones that we deal with, are not handing money back to investors or stockholders. So I believe that we are serving our children in our charter schools, and they are absolutely as valued students as the ones in our regular zone public schools. I appreciate the passion of making sure that we are taking care of all of our children and educating them well and spending our money well, and I appreciate Mr. Profit providing us with that information. So I will as budget chair, go back to Mr. Profit and ask him to send those yet another time so that people can see where that data comes from, and I would ask for your support as well.
All right, so we're on Bill 2021-1013 for passage on second reading. Councilor Van Rees has moved for approval. It was properly seconded. That takes care of everybody in the queue. Councilor Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to be clear, nonprofit belongs in air quotes because if you simply pass the money to an affiliated organization, that can be a for-profit organization. There's loads of money to be made. It's a shell game. Thank you.
All right, anybody else in the queue? All right, again, we are on Bill 2021-1013 for passage on second reading. We'll try it by voice vote. All those in favor of 2021-1013 on second reading say aye. Opposed, no? No. The voice vote passes, so it passes on second reading. Okay. We're on item number 70. This is Bill 2021-1014. Ordinance approving a lease agreement by and between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Education and Cameron College Prep. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen.
At the request of the sponsor, Budget and Finance recommended a 2-meeting deferral, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, and Education, Councilmember Lee.
Education as well voted for a 2-meeting deferral.
All right. And Planning and Zoning, I think, also had this one. Councilmember Withers.
Yes, the Planning and Zoning Committee considered this item and also voted in favor of the deferral. I believe the vote in favor of the deferral was 8 in favor, 0 against for the deferral.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Councilmember Sledge. 2021.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to defer 2 meetings with a brief explanation.
All right, so the motion is to defer 2 meetings, properly seconded. Back to you.
Thanks. So with Cameron College Prep, I mentioned to colleagues a little bit last time. This is a situation where this is a zoned charter. This is the zoned middle school for its zone. And the facility it's in, the old Cameron High building, right now Cameron College Prep has the most portables of any school in the county in the MMPS system. It has 12 portables on site right now. I've been in very productive conversations over the holiday, both with MMPS and with Lead, who runs Cameron College Prep. We're actually, literally just a few minutes ago, confirmed that we're having a call on Friday to discuss the ability to start phasing those out and getting a facility that better, keeping it at Cameron, but getting in a facility that's more in shape and adequate for a learning environment. So the conversations are going well. I would just ask for the 2-meeting deferral for colleagues so that we can have those conversations and I can come back to you in 2 meetings. Thanks.
All right, so the motion is to defer 2 meetings, again, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Seeing none, we're voting on a motion to defer 2 meetings on 1014. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes to defer 2 meetings. Item number 71, BL 2021-1015 by Councilmembers Allen, Withers, and others. Ordinance approving a lease agreement by and between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Board of Education and Nashville Prep. Councilmember Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Planning and Zoning, Councilmember Withers.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning considered this item. What my records reflect is that we recommended approval, 6 in favor, 1 against.
Okay. All right. And Councilmember Allen, you've got the other report.
Budget and Finance recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, and I move for approval.
All right. So Councilmember Allen has moved for approval of BL 2021-1015, properly seconded. Discussion on the bill. Councilor Rosenberg? Yeah. Councilor Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't want to seem like we were picking on liberty, so all that stuff, especially, there's been some, I'd look up some articles on this one, but yeah, I would be voting no. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Again, this is on second reading. Motion is to approve, properly seconded, 10:15. All those in favor of passage on second reading, say aye. Opposed, no. The bill passes on second reading. Okay. We're on item number 72, BL 2021-1049 by Councilmembers Toombs and Van Reese. This is an ordinance to amend Section 5.04.070 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws relative to the audit requirements for nonprofit organizations receiving appropriations from the Metropolitan government. Again, BL 2021-1049, Councilmember Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Budget and Finance, Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. At the request of the sponsor, Budget and Finance recommended a 2-meeting deferral, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, back to you, Councilmember Toombs.
Thank you. Move to defer 2 meetings to the first meeting in February.
Okay, so the motion is to defer 2 meetings properly seconded. I've got people in the queue. Councilmember Evans.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I had a question, and I was hoping the administration could share some feedback.
All right, so remember, we're on a motion to defer.
Okay, then I can hold my question or get it answered offline.
Okay.
Before the, so yes, let's defer. Thank you.
Okay. And Councilmember Suara, it's a motion to defer. So on the motion to defer.
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to speak to the deferral. One of the reasons why we are asking for a deferral is that I'm working on a substitute that will actually change some of the language in that bill. One of the things that the substitute will do will be to change the threshold. Another thing that it will do is also make it a multi-tier recommendation. So if you get an amount, you go do an audit. If you get a lesser amount, you do a review and things like that. So I'm working with the Office of Financial Accountability. We're having a meeting tomorrow, and we should be able to work out the details in terms of the levels as well as the threshold. And we should have that before the next 2 meetings.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, so we're on a motion to defer 2 meetings. Nobody else in the queue ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion to defer 2 meetings, say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2021-1049 is deferred 2 meetings. I believe that's it on second. All right, and we have a consent calendar on third. These are the bills on consent. Item number 79, BL 2021-1021 is on consent. 1024 is on consent. 1026 is on consent. 1027 on consent. 1028 is on consent. And 1029 is on consent. All bills are on consent. Let me read through these things really quick. 2021-1021, well, let me make sure. Anything needs to be bumped off. I'm not looking up. Councilmember Sledge, I'm seeing you.
I apologize, colleagues. 1026 I have to bump off.
Okay. All right.
I tried to bump it on second, but my letters weren't heated.
Okay.
So
all right.
it's all
Anything
y'all's
else
fault
needs to be
instead.
bumped off of third reading? All right. Item number 79, BL 2021-1021 by Councilmember Hall. Ordinance to amend ordinance number BL 2021-693, previously established a special solid waste and recycling commission to revise the participation role of staff in the solid waste division of the Metro Public Works Department of Metro Water Services. BL 2021-1024, Stiles, Allen, Withers, and others. Ordinance declaring a certain planned road on the Orchard Bend Park property to be a public right-of-way and granting a temporary access easement. BL 2021-1027 by O'Connell, Withers, and Young. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan government to abandon existing water sewer, sanitary sewer, storm sewer mains, the sanitary sewer manhole, catch basins, easements to relocate a fire hydrant assembly, except new water and storm sewer mains, storm catch basins, water quality units, and easements for five properties located on 7th Avenue South, 8th Avenue South, and Fogg Street, also known as Paseo South Gulch. BL 2021-1028, that's item number 83, Nash, Withers, and Young. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan government to relocate a water pressure reducing valve, construct public water mains, acquire temporary and permanent easements through negotiation, condemnation, acceptance for property located at 5646 Amelie Drive. And BL 2021-1029, Benedict, Withers, and Young. Ordinance authorizing the Metropolitan government to replace the sanitary sewer force mains, construct a new sanitary sewer force main, and acquire temporary easements through negotiation, condemnation, and acceptance from the Clean Water Nashville OAP House Avenue Force Main Replacement Project. Properties located along House Avenue, Rothwood Avenue, Geeson Drive, Idlewild Court, and Idlewild Place. That's by Benedict, Withers, and Young. Anything needs to be bumped off for third reading consent? Seeing none, all committee reports are in. Councilmember Hall, just need a motion to approve. Councilmember Hall moves to approve all bills on third reading consent, properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Bills on third reading are passed on the consent agenda. Last bill on the calendar tonight, Bill 2021-1026 by Councilmember Sledge, Withers, and Young. Ordinance authorizing PDP Acquisitions LLC to install, construct, and maintain underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at alley number 806, intersection of Hagan Street. Councilmember Sledge, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Motion to defer 2 meetings, please.
Okay, the motion is to defer 2 meetings, properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion to defer say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. This bill is deferred 2 meetings. I believe that's it. Thank you all. Everybody be safe. I need a motion to adjourn. Move to adjourn, properly seconded. All those in favor of the adjournment motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We stand adjourned.
So the council has concluded about a 2.5-hour meeting, not quite 2.5 hours. It's about 10 minutes to 9. They started a little past 6:30. Fairly brief, considering it was a 31-page agenda, including 84 pieces of legislation. Probably the biggest headline out of this in terms of news, there was approval by the council tonight to end the nearly 40-year-long vehicle emissions program that's been going on in Davidson County. It was required by the federal government, the EPA, back beginning in 1984. EPA now says the city meets all the clean air standards. Other inspection programs in Tennessee counties are being discontinued across the state. The council had declined an opportunity to get rid of the program a couple of years ago, but decided now is the time to do that. It will take effect when it's signed into law, but the program itself probably won't end until 30 days after that to give notice to the contractor who operates the program. There is some question about, based on that, exactly what the people who get their tags approved and get the inspection in order to get their tags, whether they'll have to do that in January or those in February have to do it as well. That'll still be seen. Also, I would be imagined that Brenda Wynn, the county clerk who sells those things, will have to decide what to do as well. She is up for re-election later this year. At least she's running for that office. That'll be interesting to see what happens in that particular situation. Council also sort of ended a sort of long-running disagreement, three-sided disagreement between the council, Mayor John Cooper, and Vice Mayor Jim Shulman over who should serve on the Fair Board. A couple of nominees there, one from the mayor, one from the vice mayor, were rejected, got 20 votes instead of the 21 needed to pass. There was concern about not giving enough diversity on the Fair Board. There was a fight about whether that person's diversity ought to be African American or Hispanic. Tonight, the council approved 2 new people to go on the board. One is Mario Avila and Jasper Hendricks. Mr. Avila is Hispanic and Mr. Hendricks is African American. That seemed to settle the issue. They were both confirmed tonight without any dissent from the council one way or the other, so they'll both take over for that. That's an important board at this point because particularly with the renovations about to going forward on the Speedway Fairgrounds out there, they wanted to have all hands on deck, all those positions filled before that moves forward to go to them. It'll be coming back to the council as well. Council also approved almost all the measures before it tonight to spend the money involved with the money from American Rescue Funds. Before that, they also approved $8.135 million from the city's fund balances to do other things, including $3 million for the police department to fund new taser equipment. There were other things in there, money for salaries and benefits costs to cover the new Juneteenth Metro holiday, other studies that were also being done. There were 3 no votes on that. We suspect those 3 no votes were primarily, 3 no votes came almost completely on a voice vote. And it was probably because they were unhappy with what was about using that money for police to buy new tasers. There was some concerns about that in some media stories as well. Council also approved, in terms of American Rescue Funds, $1.06 million in community safety partnership funds for evidence-based community solutions in interpersonal violence. This will let them better organize that program, let it go on for a longer period of time so they can actually judge how well it's doing. There's been some questions about how they've been doing so far. Allocate also $350,000 in Metro Rescue funds for the police to expand their Partners in Care pilot program. This has been very successful in pairing up officers responding to emergency situations with trained mental health professionals. This will allow more training for officers, particularly to go on, so the program can be expanded in the future. Council also approved in 2 separate resolutions $15.3 million in American Rescue funds to Metropolitan Development Housing Agencies to fund its Sudico-Napier Community Safety Plan, and also improve infrastructure at Metro's Casey Place, as well as increase safety at the Cumberland View housing development. And one other related matter to the pandemic, the council approved sidewalk cafes to continue and operate in Nashville until at least November of this year. Council first allowed this back in September of 2020. The purpose was to provide some relief to restaurants impacted by the COVID-19 and resulting social distancing and seating capacity requirements, which were limiting their business. This will allow them to continue to do that, although right now it would probably not be a great time to be eating outdoors, at least with the weather we're having right now. Council also approved a number of resolutions that will allow more intergovernmental agreements with law enforcement agencies across Middle Tennessee to deal with distribution of state grant funds and assist with the investigation of internet crimes against children. The council had previously approved other such intergovernmental agreements in previous meetings. Council also extended for 10 years an agreement that's in place since 2001. Metro provide up to 1 million gallons of water per day to the city of Brentwood. In terms of moralizing resolutions, some council members want the planning department to update the city's general plan and do so by June 30th, 2023, because the rate of growth and development within Nashville and Davidson County has outpaced the growth that was anticipated when the last plan was adopted and revised back in 2017. This plan is very sensitive in a lot of neighborhoods, and a lot of people want more information about it, so the bill was deferred for 2 meetings. Council also approved a resolution that would have the Metro government investigate the feasibility of providing free parking for all the public meetings held here at the Metro Courthouse. They also recognize the 125th anniversary of the R.H. Boyd Publishing Company. The company has been a principal source of religious publications for Black Baptists worldwide and played a key role in establishing African-American religious and racial identity in the U.S. The council also approved tonight on second reading and did this on the consent calendar, so there was without dissent, the redistricting proposal from the city's planning commission regarding the 35 Metro Council district seats and 9 Metro school board positions. It's all in light of the 2020 census. The council can either accept or reject this plan. It doesn't look like they're going to reject it, so at this point it goes on to third reading in a couple of weeks. But without any dissent tonight, it looks like this is going to go out without the need. If council had rejected it and had their own plan, both of them might go to a public referendum. That, again, does not appear likely at this point. But the council also had one bill tonight that was one of the zoning bills that turned out to be quite interesting. It would rezone some of the property down in the Baum area around 2nd Avenue. It would take it all to SP zoning. Council members said that they approved, this was approved tonight without consent after the public hearing was held. The council members feel like this will help with preservation in that area and also do with a minimum of demolition in that area. So this appears to be another positive step forward to rebuilding the 2nd Avenue area after the bomb blast a little over a year ago. Council finally also considered 3 leases for some charter schools. Several of them were criticized as being sweetheart deals. There's now been no love lost for some members in this body and from the school board with charter schools. One of the bills was deferred for two meetings for additional studies. The others were approved on voice votes, although there were some no votes heard when the votes were taken tonight. Council is now in recess until the 18th of January. We'll be here at that time to provide live coverage. Until then, I'm Pat Nolan, and good night from the council chambers. Tonight's meeting of the Metropolitan Nashville and Davidson County Council has been coming to you live from the council chambers at the historic Metro Courthouse. It's been a public affairs presentation of the Metro Nashville Network.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.